What I've found over many years, and what many experts have said and experienced also over many years, is that creativity cannot stand alone. Many creative people, they find that nothing happens. They can't make their creativity happen. And the reason for that is that they don't understand that creativity is actually part of a package. And maybe the most important ingredient of that package is courage. If you don't have courage, your creativity won't happen. Paul Torrance said many years ago that creative people can perform miracles, but they are always in danger of crucifixion. That means that, you come up with a new idea, you come up with solutions that don't fit into the box, and then people will try to discourage you, they will stab you in the back, they will crucify you. But what he said, just keep on going. Don't be discouraged. And to be able to do that, to keep on going, you need courage. And what I have found, and other people also, is that there is not only one kind of courage. A number of years ago, I wrote a TV series called The Courage to Shake Hands with Tomorrow. And in that series of about 24 episodes, I focused on different kinds of courage in every episode. Just to give an example, there's something called social courage, for instance. Social courage is when you are not a people's person, you find it difficult to relate to people, to mingle with people, and you develop a kind of courage to be able to enter that space. I remember a mother bringing a 9-year-old daughter to me once and saying to me, this child of mine does well at school, but she now has to perform at the Eisteddfort, standing on stage and reciting in front of about 400-500 of her co-students, and she's afraid. She says, I can't do it. You see, to me, that is a lack of social courage, getting up and in front of people or amongst people and finding that you can't do it or you're afraid to do so. Now, it's very interesting, sitting down with the mother and with this child, I would always ask the question, what are you afraid of? Because identifying the fears is always the first step, and then overcoming them. And in this specific case, it took about 2 weeks to work with this child and the mother, and 2 weeks later, this child was on the stage and reciting and talking to 300 other students. Now, you see, she's acquired a kind of courageous attitude and skill that will stay with her a lifetime. So it's overcoming these fears and then getting into that mode, that courageous space. So it is important to also identify the kinds of courage that you find necessary to do what you need to do. I also remember while I was involved in this television series, I was flying from Johannesburg to Cape Town one day, and there was a man sitting next to me, and then he started talking to me, and he started talking about his mother, which is strange, to talk about your mother to a stranger. But I got very excited about what he told me about his mother. And so when we landed in Cape Town, I actually asked him, I said, I'm involved in this TV series. Would you mind if we include your mother in one of our episodes? And he said, no, absolutely so. Now, you see, his mother was a single parent, and she had 9 children. And she was a domestic servant in a sense. She worked in different households. And this wonderful woman, all 9 of her children had university degrees. And the person sitting next to me had a PhD from Oxford and was now a university professor. And he said to me, it is all because of the courage of my mother, who said, nothing is going to stop me to get education for my children. So it's a special, incredible kind of courage that, in a sense, you overcome your fears or your stumbling blocks. And also a very special experience happened a few years ago when the CEO of a large company, he told me that he started climbing mountains at the age of 40. Every year he climbed a higher mountain. And so a couple of years ago he attempted Everest. And it was the last day, and it was the last stretch. It was a beautiful day, and from a sort of rational point of view, nothing stopped him from getting to the top, but he didn't get to the top. There was just this fear that paralyzed him. He couldn't continue. And then he went down. Of course, he was stressed and disappointed and really unhappy with himself. And then I spoke to him and tried to understand, what really happened there. And then I realized what happened is that the fear was, in a sense, embedded in him a couple of days before he started to climb Everest, when he had to fill in forms, and on one of these forms they asked him, "What should we do with your body?" You know, that's not a good thing to answer. And that, in a sense, entered his brain in that last stretch. But a year or so ago, he attempted Everest again, and he got to the top. And he said this to me, these beautiful words, that getting to the top of Everest, his Everest or your Everest, is got very little to do with physical courage. It's got everything to do with spiritual courage. So I think it's important to identify maybe the kinds of courage that you need, you know, to pursue, to carry on with life. Because you know this as well as I do, that often you make decisions about your future and everything is in place, but you don't take the first step. And you don't take the first step because you don't have the courage to take the first step. So it is critical to have a look at that courage. And like creativity, I have found, like creativity, courage is also teachable and it is learnable. And you can get your courage back.